Hey everybody, it's Hank Zona,
And Valerie Stivers, hi.
and we are here for Redrinking once again. And in Redrinking, we like to explore wine from various cultural aspects. And this one, Valerie, was a little different in that it's not necessarily a reference in song or in art or in literature, but just a very traditional May wine, a wine that is made mostly in Germanic countries to celebrate really May Day or May 1st. And we decided to give it a whirl, right?
We did, it's true. Although I recently did a column on a Norwegian writer named Sigrid Undset, and she was a Catholic, and she wrote about the Middle Ages, but she was also influenced by the pagan tradition. So because of the pagan tradition, I thought it was a nice time to explore May Day and the May wine, because I think it's
it actually is
pre-Christian kind of thing.
It is a pagan predating Christian ritual, or and sort of has run simultaneous with that. Goes back to 1600s. It had a lot to do with the erecting of the maypole from May 1st celebrations, and it was often seen and still is sort of in a fun way as if you want to call it a mating ritual. Between the young single males and females within a community. So
cheers, May wine.
Cheers, May wine. So basically, May wine is it's not dissimilar from wines that are made in other cultures, where you're taking a base wine and you're flavoring it with something. In this case, it was flavored with one of the first herbs and flowers that grow every spring, and that is sweet woodruff. So we first thing we had to do is actually, because wine's not that tough to find, but we had to go out and seek some sweet woodruff.
And you probably can't see in my bottle, but there's my bottle full of sweet woodruff, and yours is even darker. So
let's see. Yep, it's in there.
You can see it a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. So you take a white wine, and Hank is going to tell us about the characteristics of the white wine and which is a good one to pick. And you fill it up with, I think I used about 2 cups of woodruff, and you just open it up and you stuff the woodruff in, and fill it all the way up to the top, and then let it sit for anywhere from a day to 5 days to a couple of weeks. Ours has been sitting for about a week, and we've just opened it up today and tasted it for the first time.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the recipes, of course, vary greatly for this, like any kind of traditional recipe. Valerie and I have talked about dandelion wine in the past, and you can look up dandelion wine and find 50 recipes, and probably the same for a May wine. Another thing that we did to sort of bring out some more of the flavor of the sweet woodruff was we toasted it, or we roasted it. I put it in the oven probably for about 5 minutes or so. You probably did too, at 275, just to sort of release some more of the fragrance and dehydrate just a little.
It was extraordinary. I mean, it really did fill my apartment with the fragrance. And so now we have the wine here and we're tasting it. Hank, what do you think of the May wine?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour a little bit into my glass.
Oh, you haven't tasted it yet.
I'm going to strain it a little bit, just because.
I did that, and then I did it incorrectly and poured wine all over my countertop. So if you only have like a big pasta strainer instead of the fancy little drink strainer that Hank has, be careful as you strain, because when the greens come out, it all comes out in a splash.
And I decided to take this outside too, by the way, because I wanted to look kind of springy with the trees here in the background on my front porch. But because of that, there's the occasional car that drives by, just like now. So the other thing interesting about this is that with that ceremony on May 1st, not only was there a maypole, but if you were a young man interested in a young woman, you erected your own small maypole or tree in Germany, Maybaum, as they call them, Maibaum, in front of her home. And if she seemed very smitten with your treeposal, she would then spread rice on your doorstep to show that there was mutual interest. I don't know the significance of that, but again, these ceremonies had May wine served, and the other thing they had the May wine served with often was a seasonal fruit, and I'll show that in a second. But I'm going to taste mine first, because again, it's been steeping in there for about a week. Valerie, you used a Riesling that we picked out, and I used a Sylvaner from Germany, which is also a German grape, Alsatian grape, a wine that you find in that part of the world. And I'm going to give mine a taste. You can smell it right away. Just sticking my nose in there. It's just this great floral, right? Flowers and vanilla almost.
Right. The smell is I mean, as soon as I opened the bottle, I could smell it's like a savory smell, but also a floral smell,
Mhm.
and I think it smells fantastic, and I also love the way it tastes, as a matter of fact.
Ah, yeah, I like mine too, but I got to tell you what, I used a drier base wine with the Sylvaner,
Hmm.
and your Riesling, even though not sweet, we've covered Rieslings before, tend to be a little richer tasting and
Uh-huh.
give the impression of sweetness. And I'm wondering if the taste of yours with the Riesling goes better with the sweet Woodruff. This is really nice too. And I'm glad
Uh-huh.
I made 2 bottles of it because I actually share some of the wine with the nice people who lent me sweet Woodruff from their
Oh,
gardens. But
well, this
often it is served with a spring fruit, and the spring fruit that it's often served with is
is a strawberry.
strawberry. It's a strawberry, and there's other versions of it. There are sparkling versions. Um, Again, sometimes they'll add soda to it, seltzer. They're the recipes really vary greatly. There are some mass-produced types made in Germany that have this kind of sickly green color, so they dye them and all too.
Uh-huh.
Stay away from those. You can easily make your own if you have some sweet Woodruff, and it's a great ground cover, and it does smell beautiful, and it spreads if you have your own garden, which you may not have in Brooklyn. It'll spread pretty quickly.
So my personal anecdote about this and about sweet
Yes.
Woodruff is that long ago, the only time that I've ever been truly just horribly dumped and by a boyfriend, and cried for months, and it was a great drama of my early 20s, and his last name was Woodruff. And
Uh-oh.
this was like a mysterious and iconic name to me, but somehow I never actually looked it up. What plant is that? I knew it was a plant of some kind, but despite my great love for him, I had never seen Woodruff and didn't know what it smelled like. And this was the first to make this May wine, was the first that I ever saw the Woodruff. But it's really special. It's beautiful, and it has a
It is
great
beautiful.
flavor. And so,
And
gardeners out there, certainly, I think it's a good thing to add to it.
and that herbal flavor does integrate really nicely with the wine. The thing about Woodruff, another reason why it was chosen, herbs, as we know, had real medicinal qualities in the Middle Ages, and sweet Woodruff was also chosen in conjunction with this May ceremony for eligible young women and men, because it was thought to have aphrodisiacal qualities as well.
Well,
So,
honestly, I mean, sometimes we have tried
your
or
Woodruff did
tasted
not
it.
have those impact on you, did it?
We've tried or tasted those specialty spirits, and you think, okay, this is interesting to taste, but I wouldn't want to drink it all day. I would totally drink this all afternoon. Mine is like icy cold, and it has that floralness to it, but then it also has a lot of maybe it has almond or something. It has a lot of it has an herby thing. I was thinking marjoram. I think it's probably coming from my Riesling, but actually you tell me if my Riesling is supposed to taste like this. But
no, I think, and the nice thing is we both chose very good quality base wines. We didn't pick a cheap wine for this. These are both wines that I think either of us would have been happy to drink on their own. So wanted to use the best wine possible. But certainly there's herbaceousness from the Woodruff. There is a floral nature. We use the flower buds too, and again, I get a spiciness and a vanilla kind of a flavor too. And I bet you it would probably be more pronounced even in your Riesling. And I can see this. And people would also make like big punches with this as well.
Right.
Maybe add a sparkling wine or sparkling water to it, like I mentioned earlier. So you can see this being a fun kind of seasonal communal drink too.
Right, yeah. But my Riesling also there's like a lemony or minerals and salt to it. So this is not a sweet drink. I mean, it's a perfect, light, refreshing, drink it all day around the maypole kind of drink. So,
I keep getting this vanilla aftertaste from this too, which is kind of interesting because there's no oak or none of that type of fermentation that would add that sort of characteristic to this wine. So it really is something that's come right from the actual Woodruff. If you don't have sweet Woodruff growing in your garden, wherever you may be, you can actually buy sweet Woodruff or Woodruff syrups as well. Just don't get the green ones because then it looks like some horrid, St. Patrick's Day drink accident. But you can find sweet Woodruff syrups and use those in the wine too, and replicate a lot of the same flavor we have.
Well,
There
it's
you go.
May. People have a couple more
Nice.
weeks in May,
Go
so
May.
May wine is still a thing for a few more weeks. And if you're having any kind of party or an outdoors party, I mean,
Yeah.
this reminds me also of my early grade school days. I went to like a sort of alternative Waldorf school, and it was just all festivals and parties. And we had probably the most amazing party I've ever been to as a small child was an actual maypole party where
Yeah.
we did the braiding and we all had outfits and crowns on our heads. And I want a summer day like that with this wine and a whole bunch of friends.
Yeah, you know what? This does taste like the type of wine you'd have with a bunch of friends outdoors, which is why I decided to sit here on my porch with some greenery in the background and kind of celebrate the month and the season as well that way. And it just kind of flashed me back to my kindergarten maypole ceremony as well. And wow, that was a long time ago, though. Anyway, cheers. And
we're redrinking. We'll be back
year.
Next time.
Yeah, of any year, spring is especially welcome this year.
No kidding.
Cheers to everyone.
All right.
See you next time on Redrinking.
Bye-bye. We're done. Click end.